Well, sadly, this is it. This is the final report from Sri Lanka. I will be getting on a plane at 3 a.m. tonight at Colombo Airport, heading towards Dubai, and from there to Dublin. And it feels like I've been here a year. I've packed so much into this, into my consciousness from this remarkable and beautiful country. You don't need LSD or hallucinogenics while places like Sri Lanka or Ceylon, they still exist. What I'll take back from this place is that life has a real meaning to it, that there's a real sensuality and I don't mean in a sexual sense necessarily, I mean that in the full experience of life is here, in all its colour. That's the way I'd put it. I've met the people here are incredibly lovely. I've made friends here for life, I'm sure. That's how I feel about it, and I'll be eternally grateful for having set foot on this on the soil of this land. You know, when I look back on it, the highlights, there's been just so many. I just even couldn't put the finger on it, but they were just incredible. I mean, a lifetime experience. So let me tell you something, magic works. I'm living proof that magic works, and anyone who tells you it doesn't, they're wrong. Because you can actually, when you need it the most, you can generate, with the help of others, of course, but that's also part of the magic process, because you've developed relationships and connections with people that lead up to this. But it works if you're just honest and pure about it, and you're not doing it for selfish reasons. It does absolutely work. I mean, I just couldn't. The highlight of this time in Sri Lanka has been Sri Lanka. Everything. Okay. Brendan Behan once said about New York that the man who hates you hates the human race. I think Anthony Bourdain said the same about Ireland. He says, if you can't love Dublin or Ireland, there's no hope for you as a human being. I would say the same about Sri Lanka. If you can't love Sri Lanka, you might as well just give up as a person. You have to love the good and the bad. Even the things that were kind of hair-raising, like that ferry trip across the Delph Island, it was literally just a refugee boat or something like that with a few nailed together with a few places of plywood and seas that were like this. I loved every second of it. It was the exact opposite of being uncomfortable or nervous. It takes a lot to make me scared anyway, but it was life in all its majesty, and it's an experience I'll carry with me forever, and that's how you deal with these things. The only thing I would say was disappointment with Sigiriya. Not that Sigiriya is a disappointment. It was just it was packed full of tourists. It was just full of tourists, and it's the same problem we have at Stonehenge, and the same problem we have at Newgrange. It's the same. Once you become a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the floodgates are opened and all the knuckle scrapers come. It's just how it is. And if you have a sacred spot that you love somewhere in the world, pray to God that UNESCO doesn't make it a World Heritage Site, because they'll just move the robots in on a conveyor belt and move them out, and they won't appreciate it, and they actually distract and take from the magic of the place. That's why I think Avebury in England is so fortunate, has the village in the middle, because the village in the middle is actually protected, that site. But Sigiriya, the best part of that was what they call the Lion's Gate, which I don't believe is a lion at all. I think it's a dragon, and that was it really. That was it. And then the pondering what it was really about. It seems like it has the same kind of machine type function that the Giza Plateau structures have. And the best part of it all was like later on, when I was shooting a scene for this kind of like esoteric movie I'm working on. I got the most beautiful view of the mountain from like some side road, and an elephant came out of the bush, and it was just perfect. And so that was special. That even Sigiriya didn't. While the tourist disappointed me, the magic of Sri Lanka still manifested for me. In that sense. Now there are people that wouldn't be able to handle it here. It's still a developing country. You're still dealing with, the chaos of that, the lack of organisation. On some levels, it's very well organised. like in terms of like high tech and stuff like that. In other ways, the streets are chaotic. You can't believe the amount of dogs you see running around wild, and the puppies, and you're just like, every time you're going down the road there's a dog or a puppy in front of you and you're literally like, oh no, this kind of, you think you're going to be hit next. It doesn't happen. I didn't see it happen, but it's like, you know, it does happen a lot. It has to, just by sheer numbers, and that was difficult to deal with. Then there's other things that, like what you call it, Jaffna, the city at night smelled of shit and piss really, really badly around the market area. It didn't bother me because they have open drains, and when it rains it comes down the street, and these drains are incredibly deep. They're about this deep in the middle of the street, and half the covers on them are broken. And that's just life, you know, that's just how it is. And you have cows walking around in the middle of the busy city streets. Now, I know people would, like certain Westerners, that would drive them up the wall, but at the same time too, when you visit places like this, you go for those experiences. It's just like in a relationship, you take the good and the bad. Well, when you go to a country like any country, you take the good and the bad. You just have to. And then from that, you see the totality of the whole. And then that's you know, it. I have nearly 0.5 terabyte of footage just from Sri Lanka. That's how much I filmed. That will be seeds for a vast amount of video and film work to come in the future. And that's just from Sri Lanka. I did loads in Germany before I came here. And even though I'm finished here tonight, I'm still on the road again. I'm going to do a few other countries around Europe as well, because while the airfares are cheap and while you can still travel at this time, I'm going to make hay while this, you know, the sun shines, and then I'll have the rest of the year to do editing and make films, and it'll be worth it on every level. And I've got, you know, my brain, the gears are going. I've definitely had, one of my friends on Instagram said I had a shift in consciousness. Absolutely. The shift in consciousness was happening after the event in Germany, which you saw in that video about the invocation of Lucifer. It had happened then, because if you look at the pictures of me before Christmas, I look like a fucking zombie. And you look at me, even going to the airport coming here, I look like a different person. And now I feel like I'm a kid again. I have a tremendous amount of physical strength. My vitality is just back. My brain is flying, and I'm just laughing and giggling from one minute to the next, and I'm just enjoying life, just enjoying the majesty of life. It's because it was, you know, it's the whole thing. You have to die to be born again. The death card in the tarot, you know, that's life. And no regrets, no remorse. You move on. The gods will decide, and you know, it's that's how you live, and that's what then doors of opportunity open, but only if you're honest about it and direct about it. You know, pussyfooting gets you nowhere in this life. It doesn't get you off the street that you live on. And so Sri Lanka, it has been a magical place. I would love to come back here if the opportunity ever arose again. Don't know if it would, but it's definitely lit a fire under my ass to stop me just concentrating on Europe. I mean, I absolutely adore Ireland. I love Europe as a whole, but it's a big, huge world out there, and there's still places to be explored, and to be mysteries to be uncovered, and magic to manifest, generate, unfold. So thanks for following this series of videos. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I enjoyed making them. There will still be tons and tons of stuff on Open Source Occult TV to come, to do with more topical things with this channel. So I suppose I should finish with saying that spiritually, have I been affected? Big time. I mean, when I say big time, I mean major. I came here to try and find connections with Indo-European paganism, because I reckon that this would be the last kind of the purest point of Indo-European paganism to have come south. And it is, because like India, because of the Mughals and all that, had been greatly affected. Sri Lanka not so much. I mean, the colonials came here quite late, so it lasted a long time, and Buddhism is not a kind of an anti-pagan religion like the way Christianity and Islam is, and so it stayed here longer. I have, you know, I'll give you one thing off the bat. those of us in Europe, and particularly in the UK, Ireland and Western Europe, have to throw out everything we think we know about pagan veneration and pagan rites of worship. It's too rustic, it's too hillbilly, it's too white trash, it's too based on the idea that our ancestors had no colour or magic or vitality in their lives. You have bullshit things like hand fasting. That's just crap. That's not what our pagan ancestors, when they would have had when a couple would have came together, it would have been a magical, colourful celebration that would have been incredible. It wouldn't be, some fucking arsehole calling himself a druid and two white trash getting, in fucking stone circles, getting their hands tied together. It'd be nothing like that, in rags. It wouldn't have been anything like that. It would have been just like I said in the Druid Code about Tara. Tara would have looked like Rivendell from the Lord of the Rings, but built in wood. It would be, it's all gone, it's all decayed, and the Christians hid it and said those few stones are left. It would be like if the majesty of Western civilization vanished and all that was left was the foundation stones of all the great things we built and did, and that he said all they ever did was make a few foundations. Well, I've discovered now that the foundation of what they call in paganism in our part of the world is an absolute lie. It's a byproduct of the Wicca thing, which is Christianized version of Thelema or that kind of thing, and Golden Dawn, Rosicrucianism. It's not authentic. It degrades our ancestors, and our ancestors, our pagan ancestors, were blinged up, colourful, rich, magical, and glorious. They were not a bunch of rustic, hillbilly, white trash walking around a few stones and doing a bit of hand fasting like the knackers you have today. It was nothing like that at all. It was nothing like wankers walking around in robes and a staff, talking about this sacred tree or that sacred tree. These people would have been like what you see here, colourful, vibrant, intense, and they would have celebrated the majesty of life according to a lunar calendar, of course, and it wouldn't have been dominated by men or women. It would have been dominated by the population as a whole. So you wouldn't have women going around calling themselves goddesses like you have an awful pagan system back in Ireland and Britain. Yeah, the goddesses would be very distinct. There would be archetypes to be worshipped, the same with the gods and so on. It would have been nothing like the kind of nonsense we've been foisted on us since the 1960s and earlier about what our pagan ancestors were like. We were bling motherfuckers, and that's what we were, and we were stylish and flash and sexy, and we were not a bunch of rustic troglodytes scraping around in the mud waiting for St. Patrick and the rest of them to come along in their finery and gowns. We were the ones who were looking great. We were the ones who had style, and when the Christians arrived, what they brought was muck, and that muck has been foisted onto pagan worship ever since. Stop it and learn. This is what I'm going to really work on from this point on. This idea of that our ancestors being rustic rubes. It's over. Paganism was flash, paganism was colourful, and paganism was magical, and that's the future. And I've learned that here on this subcontinent more than anywhere else. This is where we go, this is where it is. We have to undo the spell of the rustic hillbilly and the country dweller. The country dweller was not in rags. The country dweller looked like they had that gypsy flair, and that's what we need back in paganism on our lands, that gypsy flair. And see you next time in Ireland and then other places. Take care.